With Saturn's discipline, Jupiter's generosity, and channeling your emotions in a healthy way by exploring where they're coming from at a subconscious level, you are sure to bring a long-term goal to fruition at this upcoming full moon on Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, happening in sidereal Scorpio. So that's what this episode is going to be all about. I'm going to tell you about May's full moon. I'm going to tell you about where it's happening in the night sky, what that means astrologically, and like I mentioned, Saturn and Jupiter, and also when I mentioned the subconscious, I'm talking about the sign of Pisces and what's going on there. Saturn and Jupiter are also involved with this full moon, and so nothing happens in a vacuum. The other things happening in the night sky are what makes this full moon different from any other full moons, and I will of course explain to you how all of that factors in to how we astrologically understand this full moon, and then importantly what that means for your life and how you can bring it down to earth in your life through yoga practices and journal prompts at the end. So first, I'd like to extend you a warm welcome to the Horoscopes podcast. I'm your host, Rosemary Holbrook, and I am a Vedic sidereal astrologer, which means I use the Vedic system of astrology, which uses some different tools. So if you're newer to astrology, you might just think like, oh, there's just astrology and it's like one thing. There are many different systems, some more prominent ones. Vedic astrology is one of the more prominent ones, but even more prominent than that, especially if you live in a Western country, is what we know as Western astrology. But even among that, there's different varieties that I'm not as much of an expert in as I am Vedic astrology. So Vedic astrology uses a different set of tools. One of those tools being the zodiac that it uses, which is the sidereal zodiac, which is a little bit different than the tropical zodiac that Western astrology uses. So that's where, if you're just out there on the internet at all, if you're listening to an astrology podcast, I assume you are interested in astrology, which means you probably see astrology related things on the internet. And sometimes folks are like, it's not in Scorpio, it's in Libra or whatever it is. I always forget if it's a sign forward. So they probably are saying Sagittarius now. So anyway, it's off. And I often get people in like the YouTube comments. You can also reply to me on Spotify or on YouTube. I often get people that are like, excuse me, like that's not where it's happening. And so I just want to be clear. We use the sidereal zodiac. It's more astronomically accurate. So it's happening in sidereal Scorpio. We'll talk a little bit about what a full moon in Scorpio means. We'll dive more deeply into the nakshatra, which is one of those tools of the Vedic system that I mentioned, a lunar mansion, into the nakshatra, the lunar mansion where this full moon is happening, which is Anuradha. And so I'll tell you more about what that means, the mythology and archetypes that feed into the meaning we make of that nakshatra. And yeah, so that's a yogi scope. I'm trying to bring this very heady spiritual stuff down into your regular life through the yoga practices and journal prompts that we will discuss at the end. So first, to be clear, I already said this full moon is happening Thursday, May 23rd, but I did not say it's at 9:52 a.m. So if you want to do your full moon practice, I encourage you to either take the time to do this journaling or do a yoga practice or something, some kind of self-reflection. It's just good to do every new and full moon at the bare minimum. Do some reflection, some journaling, some yoga. If you want to do it Wednesday, even Tuesday or Thursday or Friday, it's fine. Any of those days will be fine to reflect on the meaning of this full moon in your life that I'm about to explain to you. And then also I would like to invite you on Monday. I offer two practices. You can practice with me for the full moon online. You can get the recording if you can't make it live. Monday at noon Eastern time, so 9 a.m. Pacific. You'll go to yogiscopes.com/classes to see these and sign up for them. Mondays is a 30-minute gentle movement, about 10-15 minutes of gentle movement, 10-15 minutes of meditation. Next Monday, what is that, the 20th? We will be doing a practice for the full moon. Or Wednesday, so that would be the 22nd, May 22nd at noon Eastern time or 9 a.m. Pacific. Virtually, you can get the recording if you can't make it live. As long as you RSVP, you can do a full moon flow practice where we will explore the things discussed in this episode. You can just be guided through it. So yogiscopes.com/classes, they're back. For a while, they were only available to the membership, and then for a while they were on hiatus, and I brought back the ability to drop into these. And so this is a really good way to kind of get your feet wet with practicing yoga in alignment with the astrology. And so that leads us well into the full moon, because this full moon, and I'll explain why, the nakshatra Anuradha is what it has to do with, is Anuradha translates to subsequent success. So that means like success that comes later. It's also symbolized by a lotus flower. So if you've ever heard the phrase no mud, no lotus, the symbol of the lotus flower is really about blossoming through difficulty. And the subsequent success idea is the idea that, like, the opposite of instant gratification, right? Like, can you plant a seed and really nurture that seed for a long time, knowing that you won't see the success from it until very much later? This delayed gratification idea is very heightened with this nakshatra. And so full moons in general are related to bringing things into fruition. They're the peak of the moon cycle. They're where the moon is its brightest, its biggest, its boldest. It's receiving the most light reflecting from the sun, and it's waning from there. It's going down in energy. So in an astrological sense, the moon cycle is like if you set intentions at the new moon when energy is at its lowest, and it's going to be heightening from there. The full moon is the time to, we always say release. We hear release things at the full moon, but another way to think about it at a full moon is like bringing things to fruition, bringing things full circle. That in its own way is a release, because you're releasing the pursuit, because it has been brought full circle. It's been brought to fruition. And so that could go a couple ways with this full moon. Either you're bringing something to fruition that has been in the works for a long time, and I almost suspect it's that. I'm going to give you an example in a second that relates to kind of all the other stuff happening in the night sky around this full moon. But it could be that you are releasing another way to conceptualize full moons is like, if you do want to set an intention, like what is a success that you want to see subsequently or later, or something that you want to work towards, can you release at this full moon things that are not that, things that are getting in the way of that, right? And so hopefully this will become more clear as we talk about it some more. But here's an example. Let me talk about Saturn before I give you the example. So the ruling planet of the nakshatra where this is happening is Saturn. And so that matters. The rulers of signs and nakshatras will have a prominent effect, and what they're doing, FYI, will have a prominent effect on anything astrologically that we're looking at, whether that's a transit like a full moon, or if you're wanting to interpret something in your birth chart, you always want to look at the ruler and what the ruler of that sign or nakshatra is doing, because they're going to be related, right? And so hopefully this will make more sense as we use this full moon as an example. So the ruling planet of Scorpio, where the full moon is happening, is Mars. I'll get there in a second. The ruling planet of the nakshatra, Anuradha, is Saturn. And so Saturn is in Aquarius. It's also aspecting Scorpio and has been. So Saturn stays in a sign for 2.5 years-ish, 3-ish maybe, with retrogrades. This time it's like almost exactly 2.5 years that Saturn will have spent in Aquarius by the end of it. Moved there officially January of 2023. So we're almost halfway through this Saturn and Aquarius transit, and this whole time Saturn has been aspecting Scorpio, among other things, which basically means Saturn's effect, which, as I mentioned earlier, is related to hard work, delayed gratification. That's a very Saturn lesson, or Saturn effect, way of being, is delayed gratification, doing things for the process of it, not for the outcome. Kind of like, so Saturn also is like seva, like selfless service. So gifting, serving other people for the process of doing it, not like for the pictures that are going to go viral on YouTube, like Mr. Beast or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's Saturn, the ruler of this nakshatra where this full moon is happening. Saturn has also been aspecting the sign of Scorpio for almost a year and a half now. Okay, so Saturn has a very prominent effect on this full moon. And then also what's more recent, so we had a full moon in Scorpio this time last year. It was actually in early June, I believe, in 2023. And I did a podcast episode about it. If you, for some reason, want to revisit it, sometimes I find it's helpful to revisit things. If you're working with something very specific, it might get too much to do it all the time. But so Saturn was aspecting Scorpio when that full moon happened, but what's different this time than a year ago is now Jupiter is aspecting Scorpio too. And that's as of about 2 weeks ago. Jupiter just moved to Taurus at the beginning of May. I did a whole episode about it. Highly recommend spending some time with that episode, revisiting it if you feel like you need, because this is a year-long thing and it's a big deal. And so anyway, so Jupiter is aspecting Scorpio as well, which means if there was something a year ago you were working with at this full moon in Scorpio the last time, it may feel like you've been working very hard on something related to that area of your life, which I'll help you understand momentarily what that might be. But I always suspect that even without me telling you, you know what you've been working very hard on. Even without me pointing it out astrologically, it feels like validation to have it pointed out astrologically. So you might have been working very hard on something for a while, like perhaps even since Saturn moved to Scorpio. And now Jupiter is there aspecting Scorpio as well, which Jupiter is known as like the benevolent one, the generous one, the one that is jovial and happy, and we always think of it as like this, like Jupiter bestows gifts, but also Jupiter can create excess. So just keep that in mind, that more is not always better. More is sometimes just more, right? And you want more all the time, maybe not necessarily. So there's this dynamic going on with Saturn and Jupiter both aspecting Scorpio, right? That's making those energies of those planets very prominent at this full moon, which is like why I started out at the beginning saying with Saturn's dedication and delayed gratification and Jupiter's generosity and, just factoring those in, if you factor in those kind of vibes, those archetypes into your full moon practice, it is very likely that you will see something come to fruition in your life. And so now it feels like a good time to bring up the example. So hopefully this audio sounds okay. Here I am, like almost 14 minutes in the episode. If audio really bothers you, you would have dropped off by now. And I know some people, they're like, I don't care, just give me the content. I don't really care how it sounds. But there are other people that will turn a podcast off if the audio is kind of echoey, which it might be, because I'm recording in my yoga barn, which I've been talking about recently on the podcast. It's actually related to why I took a little bit of a break. I've been working very hard to bring this into fruition for a long time, actually since probably since the last time Rahu was in Scorpio. So pretty recently, K2 was in Scorpio and Rahu was in Taurus. That was like 2020, September 2020-ish to 2021, or that would have been 2022, like early 2022. So that's actually during that time frame is when we bought the property where this now yoga studio, building it into a retreat center, when me and my family bought the property where this is. So that was 3 years ago now, almost. It was actually over 3 years ago we went under contract for the property. But the vision for that to even lead us to buying the property was like 2018, I think, when I formulated this big plan. So it's been a while that I've been working towards this. And now we have our grand opening this Saturday, and we'll be pretty much off to the races running after that. So it's like this big studio thing that I've been working on for a long time is coming to fruition. And there were plenty of times along the way where I almost gave up, where I was like, this is too hard. Even just last night, I was like, is this still what I want to do? I was in the shower. It was 10:30 at night, past my bedtime. And I'm stressed, right? Because there's a lot of things. But then meanwhile, I'm recording my podcast in here, and I'm the audio doesn't sound that good. There's just problems all the time. We ordered a load of gravel. It was $600. It was only probably about half as much as we needed. There's just all these things, expenses popping up. Spreading the gravel is hard work. It's thrown off my podcast recording because I'm it doesn't sound as good in here as the setup I had before. And so that's a new thing to figure out, right? And so that's going on in my life. I'm an Aquarius moon and a Pisces rising. So Scorpio in my chart is it's 9th from my ascendant, 10th from my moon. So it's in the 9th house, 10th house, depending on which chart. And I always encourage you to look at both and look at from your moon and from your ascendant. And so 9th house is things like higher education, spirituality, like yoga. So this is a yoga studio. I plan to offer trainings here. So that's, very 9th house place. 10th house is career, right? And then also have this heightened Taurus energy, which would be my 4th house. So I'm bringing all this up to illustrate to you, this is how it's playing out in my life. This is this thing that I'm bringing to fruition that's been in the works for a long time. And nothing about it has been easy. Nothing about it's been perfect, but I've been trying to keep a good attitude, right? And so that's what I mean with the Saturn and Jupiter influences. Can you find something in your life? And it will become more clear, especially when you look at the house that it's happening in. But like I was saying, even without looking at the house, even if you're I have no idea, this is my first time hearing of a house and I don't know what that means, right? Or maybe you do, but even without figuring that part out, I suspect what you've been working really hard on for a while, and what little ways can you bring that to fruition? And when I say bring it to fruition, the work is never done, right? Having this grand opening of the studio is just kind of one piece of the larger puzzle of the trajectory that I'm putting myself on. And so that has to do with the aim of life of this nakshatra, which is Dharma. So Dharma is your right path. And that's honestly what I find a lot of people come to astrology looking for, wanting to understand better. They're what is my Dharma? What is my right path? Am I doing the right thing? Am I fulfilling my soul's mission or my soul's purpose? And that's hard to know because most of the time in our life, we're so zoomed in into whatever our current challenge is that it gets hard to zoom out and say, is this the right thing? Is this truly aligned with my highest calling or my Dharma, my soul's purpose in this life? And that's hard to know. And what I would assert to you is that as long as you are making the next right choice based on what's in front of you, then yes. If you're making a choice based on information from a long time ago or information that you hope will be true in the future, likely not. That's where things get messy. But if you continue in your life making the next right choice based on what's in front of you, based on the resources and information that you have available, then that's living your Dharma. And that's what this full moon is all about. Is there something you can bring to fruition, or even if it's like you're not bringing something to fruition, just like acknowledge that you have done, like, I did that, right? Like, this is something that I've been working on for a long time that I have accomplished. And so it doesn't have to be the whole project, right? Or whatever. Like with my example with this studio is like, eventually I'm going to have lodging. We're working with a contractor to build another building that has lodging and like a better studio than this, because this is, it's great, but it's not optimal, right? And we'll likely finalize the budget on that next week, which is just serendipitous, right? Like that's what I get out of studying astrology personally. I'm like, wow, this really aligns with what I'm going through. And I'm just going through my life personally, just doing the next right thing. And then you see how the astrology aligns, and it's like, it feels like a God wink. It feels like a synchronicity or serendipity. That's just a little nod from the universe or from source or spirit or whatever, saying, yes, you are on the right track. So can you use this full moon to find something like that in your life? And so to go back to the lotus flower analogy, also the fact of how closely Saturn is tied into this full moon, that whole idea of no mud, no lotus. There are some other folks out there that, or like this popular idea, I think in the manifesting world, because I'm super into manifesting personally. I manifested the crap out of this place where I'm sitting right now, that you can see if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify. Now there's video episodes on Spotify. You can see me, and you can see where I'm sitting in this beautiful stained glass window behind me. It's like midday, so the light shining is backlit. But anyway, I believe in manifesting, but what I don't believe is that everything will be easy. If things are hard, that means that you're not on the right track. That's not true. I almost think if things are hard, you are on the right track. Like, no, things don't have to be easy and in a sense of flow all the time, right? Like sometimes you have to look for the lotus flower, the beauty in the mud, in the hard things in life, right? And so can you find what that is in your life? Can you find the little blossoms in the mud, the beauty in the struggle, right? And so maybe there are things you've been struggling with for a long time, right? And in various different ways. And can you see ways that you have championed over those things a little bit, right? And so that has to do with Saturn and Jupiter, like I was saying, how those are related with this full moon. But there's one more piece with this full moon that I feel like we need to pay attention to, and it's the fact that Moon in Scorpio already is considered debilitated, because Scorpio is this really like deep psyche, like the depths of your mind type sign. And so when the moon moves there, it can be a little bit fiery for emotions. And so now remember, Scorpio is a water sign, not a fire sign. Scorpio is often mistaken for a fire sign because Scorpio energy is kind of fiery, but that's related to the fact that Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. So it's this deep emotional sign, being that it's a water sign, but it's also kind of fiery because it's ruled by Mars, which is one of the most fiery planets, right? And so meanwhile, Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, like I was saying, we always need to pay attention to what the ruler is doing. The ruler of Scorpio, where the full moon will happen, is in the most watery water sign of Pisces with Rahu. So that just adds to an energy of explosive emotions, perhaps. Also, explosiveness coming from like a deep psyche place. So if you do feel explosive emotionally around the time of the full moon, or just now in general while Mars is with Rahu in Pisces, that could be heightened. This Mars with Rahu in Pisces is a good time in general while that's happening to pay attention to where that is coming from subconsciously, right? Like, where is this explosiveness coming from? And at this full moon could be an excellent time to examine that, to work with that, to choose to do something different rather than just exploding, right? Or, kind of spewing our emotions all over somebody else and then feeling bad about it later. This full moon could be a good time to examine where you feel like being explosive, because I don't know, like maybe you're the kind of person that pops off at the mouth, and that's fine. I'm the kind of person that bottles things up, right? But that doesn't mean I don't feel like being explosive sometimes. That doesn't mean the thought doesn't come to my head, right? But I'm a grade A stuffer, right? An emotional stuffer. So maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're the type of person that just pops off and has a temper. Like, that's fine. It's the same vibe, whether you pop off and have a temper or whether that temper just gets bottled up and kept inside yourself. I guarantee you do one or the other, because you don't just never experience anger, right? Like, that's a lie. So can you look at what's making you angry or what is making you feel really fiery emotionally and examine where it's coming from subconsciously? Like, is there a belief or something that you could explore, especially through meditation, perhaps, or spiritual practices, so that you can release that anger? And I'm going to assert that saying that you don't have anger is a cop-out. I don't believe you. People get mad, and if you don't think you get mad, you might be ignoring stuff that makes you mad. So take a good hard look at that at this full moon. And so with that, with all the things we talked about, here are your yoga practices and journal prompts. So just to recap, if I could sum up this full moon in like a sentence or two, it's no mud, no lotus. Can you blossom in the midst of difficulty? And where can you find gratitude or celebrate small victories related to things that are coming to fruition? Little lotus blooms coming up out of the mud after long struggles, right? So your yoga practices, second chakra work. Anything second chakra is good, especially for Cancer ascendants. And I point that out specifically because I know there's at least 3 of you listening, and one of you has Moon in Scorpio in the 5th house, and the other of you has Saturn in Scorpio in the 5th house. And so you two, you know who you are. Or if you're a Cancer ascendant and listening, there's one more that doesn't have any placements in the 5th house that I'm thinking of, but is a Cancer ascendant. And so this second chakra work, this connecting to creativity. So Scorpio in the body rules over sort of a similar area as the second chakra. So like the low pelvis. So if you can do some diaphragmatic breathing, some just connecting to that area, but then also second chakra work in a yoga sense is like flowing movements. Second chakra is watery, like Scorpio is watery. It's connected to emotions in the same way Scorpio, or especially a full moon in Scorpio is. It's connected to creativity. So can you connect to that in your practice? Again, if you want to just be guided through a practice that does incorporate this, join us next Wednesday, yogiscopes.com/classes. For a more gentle practice, you can join us on Monday, or you can join us for both. And then another one, if you want to just try something. Now, I have a pre-recorded one on YouTube. If you go to the Yogiscopes YouTube channel and find the playlist that says yoga and meditation for trauma healing. It's like a 20-30 minute long. It's a long guided meditation, and I believe I've titled it Emotional Turning Towards Meditation. So I'll try to, on YouTube at the end of the video, I can like put here's which video to watch next. So I'll try to put that on there on YouTube, but just go poking around and make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube while you're there, because that helps. me with the algorithm gods, and it helps you get notified because I don't seem to post on any kind of regular schedule because that's who I am as a person. I don't know. And then you'll get notified when I post something new and you won't miss it. And so check out that guided meditation. It's the idea of being able to sit with your emotions, including more challenging ones. And that guided meditation will hopefully really guide you through that. And so now here are your journal prompts. And the first one, sorry, I'm like scrolling over so I can see it in my notes. I always write them down first. And I'm sorry if you can hear me clicking on my computer. I know that's annoying. So 1, what is coming full circle in my life that I've been working long and hard on? Or related, I would encourage you to explore both of these questions. What requires more diligence from me? So think of that Saturn qualities of diligence, selfless service, Dharma, right? Dharma is very closely tied to the nakshatra of Anuradha, where this full moon is happening. Like, for example, this studio was born. Go back and listen to the first episode of The Science of Light. It's probably a painful listen. If you haven't already listened to it, listen to it because that explains more of my story and how this is part of my Dharma. I fully believe it was born out of wanting to help people recover from addiction. And this is just like one little step because yoga helped me with that one little step on that process. So like I'm saying, whatever you're bringing full circle in your life, it might be like one little piece of your Dharma puzzle. It likely will be. The work is never done, right? So what small victories can you celebrate? And maybe related to that, what requires more diligence from you? And then number 2, journal prompt, or I guess kind of number 3. I had those wrapped as one question, but so in what ways can I enjoy the process or find beauty in the mud? Like what's the lotus? What's keeping you going through all the BS, like gravel being twice as expensive as you think it should be, and having to spread gravel and having to clean toilets, and you know what I mean? Like the mud of this beautiful journey, or like having to refigure out a recording setup. I just use all that as an example, not to just excessively talk about myself, but to give you an example of how this is all playing out in real life, because I hope you're able to then connect it to your real life. And so with that, I hope you will join us for a practice next week, even if you can't make it live, Monday or Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. Pacific. yogiscopes.com/classes. It's sliding scale. That's how you can register. And I hope you'll join me for a practice. So please remember to keep your feet on the ground, your head in the stars, and stay in the light. Until next time, friends, take care.